I don't question why it may not work. I don't think like that. I see it, I'm just going to go do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of More Than a Sale, where it's not just about the successes, it's about the hardships, the struggles, the pain, the sorrows to get to where you are. And today we have
Hersh Litvack.
Hersh Litvack.
Changed the skyline of Toronto. He is a living legend. He has sold billions and billions of dollars in real estate, thousands and thousands of units. The myth, the legend himself.
Hersh, welcome to More Than a Sale.
There are days where you think you're doing everything right. Went to the office, thought the phones were going to ring, but they didn't.
But you did it better than a lot of people were able to do it. Why is that? What was the secret sauce?
I think because you know what? I am just a creative person. I already know that I can sell 50 of these things. And we were being broadcast all across Canada.
You're spotting the next big opportunity because you have an eye for these things.
I think that real estate is an incredible career. The big money is in owning real estate, not just commission to sell real estate. So start today, work your way up, buy them. Don't think, buy them. Don't hang on to what you can't deal with next. Keep moving. Buy some real estate today because it is never going to be cheaper in your lifetime.
We just came back from Vegas. We had a hell of a time over there with you guys. You guys put on an incredible trip, took care of all the agents. And I must say, you know, I'm much, much younger than you are, but you gave me a run for my money. Okay, you can party hard and you can still keep going. What keeps you still going even now with all the great things you've have accomplished in your life?
I think it's always been my attitude. I mean, you know, people say, are you going to retire? No, I'm not going to retire. What would I do if I retired? I can't sit still. So I'm always going. I'm always thinking of things, Ron, and that's just me. I just like to keep going.
You know, I always call you sir or, you know, Mr. Litvack, and you always say, no, call me Hersh. You correct me right away, and you correct anyone around you. No, I'm just Hersh. Why do you do that? What is it you like people calling you for your first name?
Well, you know what? Why do they have to call me Mr. Litvack? First of all, I think it sounds so old, but everybody just knows me as Hersh. So I think one of the things wrong with the Hersh is I've been very fortunate. As a kid, I didn't love the name, but what happened is as I got older, I thought, well, there's a very famous chocolate company by the name of Hershey, and I thought, wouldn't it be unique if we gave out Hershey's? And as it happened, just quickly, my cards for the last 25 years are actual Hershey chocolate bars. We rewrap them so that they have our label on top of the Hershey's. They are licensed with Hershey, and I've just had a fun time with the name. So, you know, Hersh, Mr. Litvack on a chocolate bar doesn't sound good.
And for our listeners and our audience, you know, it's so interesting. You guys don't know. Anytime you meet Hersh and he comes over and he does a presentation, his business card is actually a chocolate bar. Yeah. He's not lying when he says that. And how does the licensing process work with Hershey's? Like, how
they were very, very good, actually. Yeah. It actually happened because we had 17 buses when I was doing resale way back. And of course, we were a little bit, I think, infringing on their copyright. So they got in touch with us. And they were very kind in working with us, but they let us know what we were able to do and what we weren't able to do. They sent us up a legal pamphlet that was about yay thick, and we just had to conform to all their rules and regulations. And once we did, they were happy for us to use the chocolate bars.
Is there a charge to that in order to get things licensed?
No, they did not.
Okay,
they
cool.
did not charge us for do it.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
Hersh, I've known you for for a very long time. I think a lot of people have heard of you in the industry, and I told you the story as well. Even when I got my license, I would see you at various trade shows. I would see you put on events. You've lived and continue to live a very incredible life, and it's just always a roller coaster that goes up. My question for you is how did Hersh Realty come to be? You know, you've told me the story. Share it with our audience members. Share it with our listeners.
Well, how did it come to be? I mean, if you ask me, did I plan it? No, I didn't plan it. But what really happened, Ron, was I was married for 25 years to Arlene, who we're still very, very, very good friends. And at that time, you know what, I think I really felt I wanted to take a break from real estate. So I did for a couple years, and right during that time, that's when 9/11 happened, and really the world changed. And after 9/11, I just said to myself, well, what am I really going to do? I knew a few things. I was in a couple other businesses prior to real estate, but I said to myself, I really like real estate, and real estate allows you so many opportunities. But I said to myself, if I go back to real estate, I will not go back to real estate as a real estate agent per se. That's not what I wanted to be. What I wanted to do was make it into a real business. And so I did one thing at that point, and I had read a lot of books previously. And for all the viewers out there, I have gone to numerous seminars within Canada, outside of Canada. I have gone for extensive training. I have done a lot of work with my mind. I have walked on fire, real fire where people went to the hospital. You have to have a lot of mind control to do that so you don't get burned. And it is all possible, and it is all real. And just through all of that, I said to myself, there must be a book out there that tells people what's going on in the real estate business. And specifically, I picked up a book that from a company, Keller Williams, Keller wrote. And what was unique about the book, Ron, was that they interviewed 100 different real estate agents or companies, and they had one criteria. Each of those people they interviewed had to have kept $1 million in the company. So not just earn $1 million, but earn what they earned and kept at least a minimum of $1 million in those bank accounts every year. And I thought, that is where I want to go. So I read it. I highlighted a number of things, and away I went. I just started. And did it work out well in the beginning? No. If you want to know where there are days where you think you're doing everything right and it just backfires and you think everything is going to crash, this is what happened. So after reading that, I have had a background in marketing and I'm very good at it. And I thought, hey, why not get like 17 buses in the area where I was working at the time, which was Thornhill, Richmond Hill area. And that's what I did. I vinyled 17 buses, and I was so excited. I thought, this is it. And so the day they went out, I sat in my office for the phone to ring. I hired 2 extra people to handle the phone calls coming in. And that first day, not a call. The second day, not a call. Matter of fact, there were no calls, but there were 17 buses running on the road, and my visa was getting blown up. And I went, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it went on for about 2 or 3 months. And luckily, the owner of my company called me and said, hey, Hersh, just want to see how things are doing. And I went, absolutely horrible. And he asked what happened. Now, here's the unbelievable thing when you don't know what's happening and you don't ask somebody for help. I told him what was happening. And you know, interesting, Ron, he said to me, oh, I can fix that. And I went, I'd been sitting here for almost 3 months, freaking out. I go, how do you fix that? He says, oh, it happened to me. He goes, do you know the benches that came out at one time and every real estate agent was on these benches? He goes, I did the exact same thing. Went to the office, thought the phones were going to ring, but they didn't. He says, and what I soon found out is that you cannot use just one form of advertising to be effective. You need multiple forms of advertising to make it work. And he said to me, Hersh, send postcards out to the area and the phones will ring. And can you imagine sitting there after you have 17 buses on the road? The vinyl cost alone is ridiculous, let alone the monthly cost. And now my broker says to me, send out postcards on top. And I'm going, do I have any more visas available? But I thought, if I don't, I'm just going to really be in trouble. And so I found visas and I started sending out the postcards. And unbelievably, the phones did start to ring. I was very good on the phones, so I could take a call and turn it into whether it is a listing appointment or whether it was showing a house and getting them a property to move into. I was really good at it. And so once I started to come back into it, that's where it went. And from there on, it was a big change in 2006 and 7. That's how I got into the pre-construction end of the market, which is what we specialize in today.
And that's what I want to ask you, because you've had such an illustrious career, and you've done the residential and you were great at it. I mean, I think you won any and every award that ever exists. You were part of the Remax brand at one point as well, and you were at the top of your game. You still are at the top of your game, and it was just like, what's next for you? So I have so many questions, and I'm really excited for our audience and our listeners, because they're going to really enjoy listening to you because of all the things that you've done and the sales that you've driven up and the loopholes you found in the system and the opportunities that you've spotted and the things that you've done. So we started off as a residential agent, and you did a fantastic job of that. And where did pre-construction fall in your lap? What is it about pre-construction or condos you were like, wait a minute, what am I missing over here? And you never did condos before that. It was all homes.
Had no clue even what they were. The whole thing was an absolute fluke.
Wow.
So here's something I'm going to share with everybody that's watching this today. The one thing that I have the ability to do is not question everything. Just here's how I looked at it. I see an opportunity and I will take the opportunity. I don't question why it may not work. I don't think like that. I see it, and if I think that is cool, I'm just going to go do it. And so here's what happened. It was an absolute fluke. I was now divorced, and I was dating, of course, a girl in real estate. And it was one evening, we were going out. She happened to come over to my place, and she had a brochure in her hand. And I simply said, "What is that?" And she said, "Oh, it's a brochure." And I go, "What are you doing with that?" She goes, "It's for a brand new building that they're going to build." And I go, "Oh." I go, "So who's that for?" She goes, "No, it's for people that want to buy it." I said, "Well, how do you find them?" She goes, "I send out an email and I tell them I have this brand new building that's going to be built. And if you're interested, call me and I'll take it to the sales center and you can look at it. And if you want one, you can buy it." I said, "Wow, that sounds pretty neat." I go, "How much do they pay you to do that?" And she said, "Well, they pay 4%. And at the time, we were getting 2.5% to sell a house. And I thought, 4%? My eyes sort of lit up and I went, "Okay, I can do that." And we actually made a contest. I said, "I bet you I could sell more than you can." And she says, "You think so?" And I went, "Yeah." And because my background was marketing, I thought I could sort of do it. So I made up this little flyer about this building that was coming up that she told me about. And this is what happened. I told the people to meet me at the sales center. And that day, interesting enough, it happened to be Father's Day. And I didn't know what to expect, but I went down there, and sure enough, I had 11 clients that came down there, and I had no clue what I was doing. I'd never sold one of these things in my life. But the sales staff working for the developer, that's what they did. So I just let them talk to the people, and 11 people bought them. And back then, this is in 2007, Ron. And back then, that day, I made $176,000 in a day.
Insane.
And my life just changed just like that.
Yeah.
Just like that. And the funny thing was, my kids were calling me and said, Dad, it's Father's Day. We're waiting for you. Aren't you coming? And I said to them, you know what, guys? Unfortunately, today I can't be there. It was a very special day for Dad, but we're going to have Father's Day tomorrow. I'll take you out. And that's what we did. And that's how I got into it. And from there, I started to sell them. I got to know the developers, and the developers couldn't really believe how many of them I could sell. So they started to come to me and said, could you sell a building for us? And that's how the whole thing came to be, just like that.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I remember, because when I had entered the industry and I was starting to find out, who are the players, who are the movers, who are the shakers, and as you keep getting more involved, you understand who's doing what. And a lot of times you would always have special package deals that a lot of builders or sales companies wouldn't generally have. You were the guy that would go in, and if, let's just say, there was like 50 units remaining that were unsold, you would take those 50 units and you would smash them every time and you repackage them. But you did it better than a lot of people were able to do it. Why is that? What was the secret sauce?
I think because, you know what, I am just a creative person.
Yeah.
You know what, I'm always thinking of cool, interesting things to do and different ways to do it. And I have a fairly good sense of what it takes to sell something. So I knew if I would package it this way, the agents could sell it or we could sell it like here, just like that. I'm a pretty creative person. And I think also because, when I say my background's marketing, even throughout high school, half of my day was in the arts programs. So I've learned, since I was a teenager to deal with all of that type of stuff. And it just has grown through the years and I've used it. And it's funny that you're sitting, as a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old in high school, taking these art classes and thinking, what am I ever going to do with this stuff?
Yeah.
But it is unbelievable, for instance, how some of those classes which were in industrial design have moved into architecture. And today, I actually sit with the architects, with the engineers at the conceptual parts of these towers that you see through the city, and I work on designing them.
Wow.
Yeah.
What, when you and I have hung out on so many times, formally and informally, and I've had the pleasure of having dinner with you and your family as well. You were so kind enough to take me out of Harbor 60. I had a great time, by the way. I felt like, one of the family members. I was the other extended family of the Litvack family. You shared so many stories with me, and I wanted you to share with our audience members and our listeners, what were some of the creative ways? And I know there's so many stories, but some stories that come to mind of, when the lineup systems used to happen and how you came up with creative ways to lock in those units for your clients. Because what's unique about you compared to a lot of the sales and marketing company or the builders and developers, you really truly understand the heart of a realtor. And because you were once a realtor on your own, where not only you did only pre-construction, you've done the residential, you've used every marketing tactic that probably exists in the real estate industry, then figured out your own marketing tactics, then found creative ways so you understand the pulse, and then shifted from residential, then you went into pre-construction, then from selling bulk deals to representing larger builder projects, and you just kept growing and growing and growing. And so what were some of those, what would you say now? The selling process has evolved, obviously, over a period of time.
Yeah.
from 2006 to 2007, there were lineups. Now, if you see a lineup, you see probably a pissed off agent, like, what the heck are we doing standing in a lineup for? You know, there has to be a better way. But a lineup was very normal at that point in time. Even the way the allocations were released, the worksheet process, the signing process. Sometimes I would talk to some buyers and, you know, my old uncles and family friends that said, Ron, I didn't even know what I was buying. I stood in line, the agent came, said, you want this unit? We only have one available. If you don't buy it, the next, and we just signed in line, and we signed an APS, not even inside the sales center. They never even got inside that far, and you know this probably better than anyone. So what would you say has evolved in the selling process? That's my first part of the question to you, and the second part is what were the times like? Share with our audience and our listeners, because see, real estate has evolved and people forget what it was like before during that time for the selling process.
I'll give you one of my favorite stories.
Yes.
One of my favorite stories is when One Bloor East.
Okay,
so this is the building that is now completed, right? 80 some odd stories up in the air, but they were going to release One Bloor East.
Yeah.
And this is shortly after the story I tell you about selling the 11 pieces, probably within the same year kind of thing. And what ends up happening is I already know that I can sell 50 of these things. I already have some names, people that want this. It's been sort of in the background buzz that the building's coming out. And I remember meeting with the company that was in charge of selling the building. And I go up to their offices, and I'm sitting there in the boardroom, and they say, well, Hersh, we're going to give you 1 floor. And I went, 1 floor? That's 10 pieces on that floor. I go, no, I need 5 floors. And she looks at me and started laughing. She goes, I'm sorry. This is one of the most popular buildings, and everybody wants a floor.
Yeah.
And I cannot give you 5 floors. You are very lucky to even get 1 floor. There are only so many agents in the city that we are giving 1 floor to, but nobody's getting more than 1 floor. And I went, are you being serious? And yes, they were. And I left with my allocation of 1 floor. And I'm going, but I'm short 40 pieces. And so here's how my mind works, Ron. By the time I was down in the elevator, 30 floors in that office building, and walked out, I saw a restaurant across the road with a little outdoor cafe. It was summer. And I walked over to it, sat down, ordered a drink. And I went, okay, I know what I'm going to do. And at that time, my son was a head counselor in one of the very popular camps in Ontario, and he had a lot of friends. And what happened was I found him. And my son's name is Jody. And I said, Jody, if I want you to phone 20 or 30 of your friends and tell them that I will pay them to stand in line for concert tickets, do you think you could make that happen? He said, yeah, probably. I went, no problem. Now, here was the deal. You got 10, and if you were a regular agent, you could get 3 suites per agent if you would line up for the regular inventory after all the agents who had the floors of 10 each, sold theirs. At the time, and still today, the Marriott Hotel is directly across the street from One Bloor. So I went into the hotel, and I asked them to show me one of the suites they had that would look directly on where the lineup would be to stand in line to get the suites for One Bloor. So I booked the hotel room for 9 days. And I said to myself, if anybody really wants to do this, they'd probably think on the outset that maybe they would line up a week before. So I thought, I will line up 8 days before. And what was in my mind was I would rotate all the people standing in line so they would have 8-hour shifts. There would be 3 shifts per person per line, and each one of those would get me 3 sales. So I arranged with Jody to get 11 times 3, 33 people from camp to participate in this program. And how we arranged it was we had them all come down on the morning, 8 days before they opened up the sales center. And all of a sudden, we swarmed the front of the building and made a line of 11 people. Now, there were other agents milling around because they were just looking to see what was going on with the sales center a week or so before it was opened. And they looked at us and they said, "What are you doing?" And I said to them, "This is the official line for One Bloor. If you want to get in, you better get in now." And within about 3 hours, there was a lineup of agents around the block. I had called the TV stations and the radio stations, and by that evening on the north side of Bloor, there wasn't just reporters. There were these huge trucks with these giant satellites on the rooftop, and we were being broadcast all across Canada of what was going on the most famous corner in all of Canada, Bloor and Yonge, and that is how most people knew me. And today, if you go look up on YouTube 2007 sale of One Bloor East, you'll find all kinds of video clips on me, and that really, really changed what happened in this industry.
What a mastermind plan! Yeah. Not even having what was the purpose of the suite? So you would have the suite. What would you?
Because people had to come up and shower and change and have a place to go. So that was our command center. So we used it as a command center.
Command center.
And we just had all kinds of people coming in and changing and resting and sleeping.
Yeah.
And we had
food provided, etc. Yeah.
And we had one person in charge of all the kids. So he was looking after the schedules, and it was an unbelievable.
So anyone that stood in line, but would they have to be an agent? But if these kids are there,
so what ended up happening is then I went and got 11 agents and said, if I pay you $1,000, will you come and stand in line the day of the sale so that you can get the allocation for me? And certainly I found 11 agents that were happy to stand in a line for $1,000 a day. Right, and that's what happened. So between the 10 I got and the 33 I got there, we ended up selling 43 pieces that day, and of course that was.
And did the builder know about your tactic of what you were doing?
He actually came, shook my hand, and he said, "I have never in my lifetime met anybody that knows how to market like you do." He goes, "That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen." And of course, because of what I did, the building became so famous. It sold out in an hours.
They got free publicity and who was this builder?
Bezos.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Very nice fella.
So from there on out, after you had done that, you know, what were the next steps? So you did that, then you kept selling projects independently. At what point in time did you start to realize that, okay, I'm selling now as an agent, but now I want to get to where the sales and marketing company ratio, because you keep leveling up. You start selling homes. From homes, you went into selling condos. From condos, you're spotting the next big opportunity because you have an eye for these things. So at what point did you spot the next opportunity, or was it just hey, we have these units, can you sell it for us? And then you realize, hey, if I can do it for this person, maybe I can start acquiring my own sites. Instead of selling 50 units or 60 units, let me do all 300, 400.
Well, so what happened? So a few things happened. What happened was I was getting entire sites. So now we were selling entire buildings where...
But how were you getting them? That's my question. Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you? How did it...
Both. In other words, some of the builders saw the news and saw what was going on. You know what? It's not such a large industry. In actual fact, there are very few companies that actually do what our company does, and is the direct sales agent and marketing agent for these developers, because these buildings are expensive. So before they hand you a $200 million building, generally they want to make sure that you're not going to make a mess of it and accomplish what you need to accomplish. So, a lot of it was word of mouth, and a lot of it had come because even in the financing end of these buildings, it's a tight industry. And so I would do a building for somebody, and the financing end of it arm said, hey, we're involved in another building over here. Let me introduce you to that developer, and why don't you sell that building for us? And that's how it grew into that. But Ron, you know something? There were two other arms that were important, and I think for anybody that's watching this today, I think that real estate is an incredible career, and it brings you certainly the money that you need to put food on the table and deal with what the bills and that kind of thing. But if you're looking for financial freedom, I learned through education and through other people who told me things that I was able to listen to and carry out, that you need money coming in from other areas, other streams, other income streams. And in real estate, one of them is buying it, right, and having rentals. Like that's one of them. And of course, the other thing is what you touched on is building, and I have done both of them. But interesting enough, you can have somebody telling you something just as you're watching it today, and it may sound amazing, and you may not do it. This is what I have found in the years I've been in the business, is that after you hear something maybe 2, 3, or maybe 4 times, it resonates with you at that particular time. And then you go on it. And so even though I was selling condos, it took 2 things to make a massive change happen. One of them was the 2 brothers who owned the brokerage I worked for at RE/MAX. And one of the great things that they always did is when they saw me, they say, did you buy real estate, Hersh? Did you buy real estate? Did you buy real estate? Did you buy any real estate? Did you buy real estate? Always. Did you buy real estate? Of course, if you hear it enough times, you should be thinking you should be buying real estate. That was big in me getting involved in buying it. But here was something that took almost 7 years to realize what was going on. So here I was selling all this pre-construction. And I was happy at the time because, a normal real estate agent, you're making commission, you're doing good. We were selling a lot of it.
You're selling in volume, yeah.
You're happy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, 3 years later, when these buildings are ready, or 4 years, all of a sudden we're delivering to my clients. And my clients are making like $150,000 on these that they bought 4 years ago. And I went, uh-oh, I think I missed something. I think I took the commission, and what I should have been doing was buying them, because the big money is in owning real estate, not just commission to sell real estate. So, of course, I started buying. But by that time, Ron, it takes them another 3 years to do the buildings, right, to finish the buildings. So, of course, it was almost 7 years before I was able to start to reap the benefits of buying and making $100,000 or $150,000 on these units. And here's what I did do. I didn't sell them. What I looked for was any kind of real estate that would be positive cash flow, and I just started to buy it. I can tell anybody out there, little thing, if you own 10 properties, doesn't really matter the size, that's retirement. So start today and work your way up and buy them. Don't think, buy them. But that's what I just did. I just started buying them. And I think the first one's always the hardest because you're not sure what's going on. But after you buy the first one, you really just want to start buying other ones, because owning them and renting them is really easy. It's really, really easy.
How many would you say you have in the portfolio now?
Probably, I don't know, 30 of them.
Wow.
Well, and because a few of them I sold because I got involved in a huge development. So yeah, you just keep on.
But that was leverage, and that's what I share with my clients too, because sometimes in life things change, and you always have something as leverage. And let's just say when with your business that you're doing, and let's say a cash flow stops or a problem happens, or you want to take a bigger risk or a bigger jump, where are you going to borrow? If you overextend yourself, you're putting yourself on a very thin line of disaster, and you see people get wiped out when they're operating on thin lines. Sometimes it's like a gamble that they take. I've seen so many people get wiped out on very thin lines because they never had leverage. So when you have a large leverage of, let's say, 30 or 40 or 50 homes or properties in general, you can offload 25 of them and get a huge capital, take on a larger risk.
Absolutely.
So, and that risk of the development, and when you're playing in a very huge multi-million-dollar range. So follow-up question for you is this. You now work and you have a lot of great, incredible, successful, wealthy friends and clients in the industry, in Canada and overseas. I had a pleasure of meeting some of them as well in Vegas. When you sit down with these individuals, what would you say are some of the most governing principles that they have when it comes to investment, when it comes to building wealth for themselves? What's their mindset? How do they operate? I have my own theories, and now because I have so much, correlations, you get a chance to hang out with them. They're still normal folks. They still will do the same things. They shop at the same place that you'll shop at, maybe sometimes a little bit differently. But their mindset towards wealth and so share with me your experience. What would you say, what you've noticed about these individuals, these really uber wealthy individuals that you've got a chance to spend time with?
It's a good question because I know them from billionaires, and down, and I will tell you that some of the billionaires I know I'm great friends with, great guys, really super people that if you wouldn't know who they were, you probably wouldn't. They're fairly modest. And then there's, everybody else out there that is more like the norm, and they're just, what it is? It's not magic. Here's the difference. They actually do something there. That's the difference. They do something to make something happen, where other people will talk about it, will dream about it, but they just won't do it. I'm going to give you an example. And this is for all of you out here. I'm going to ask you this question. If I could get you real estate today that was at the price it was 7 years ago, would you buy it? Would you buy it, Ron?
Yes.
Everybody will say yes, they would buy it 7 years ago. So here is my question to you and to you. Why didn't you buy it? It's interesting. Everybody pauses just like you do when I ask that question. So here is something I've learned in the 34 years I've had the license that has been invaluable to my investing habits. Ron, and to all of you in the audience today, it doesn't matter what year you're buying real estate, it always seems expensive. That's it. And if you understand that principle, you will buy real estate and not wait. It's not getting cheaper. The amount of, or the increase in the population in Canada has been incredible. We have not had an increase in the population of Canada like this since the 1930s. In 2022, and you can look up the stats. I know a lot of you think it's 500,000 a year, but it's not. It's not. It's been 1 million. It's been 1 million. And last year the population grew by over 1 million again. And this year it's slated to grow at 1.3. And if you like to know that I'm not guessing, the government of Canada puts out a fascinating population graph that you can go get, and it runs 24 hours a day, and on average, the population of Canada right now is increasing by over 3,000 people per day. Wow. We need a place to put them. So anybody that understands what's going on should know that if the rates are where they are today, and real estate has come off a little bit, the prices that you buy today is absolutely some of the best bargains that you will ever see now in your lifetime. I'll just add something to this. This is the fourth time I've lived through a recession in real estate. So one of the interesting things as you get older is that you start to become a little more comfortable because you see this happen. So for all of you out there that are wondering, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? It's going to revert back to exactly what it was. The rates are going to come down. I do believe, okay, that in June, certainly by July, the rates will start to come off. If you look at the bank predictions, every one of the big five banks predicts that in the fourth quarter of this year, right now they've published it, that they are anywhere from 3.5, 3.7 to 4% is where the rates will be. So they will change and the lineups will start and all the incentives that are offered today will not be there. And am I guessing? No, because when you've lived as long as I have and you've seen it happen 4 times, you pretty much know.
So I have some follow-up questions to that. Again, you and I can go on and on because I'm just fascinated. You know, whenever you speak and whenever the ideas that you talk about, because I get a chance to learn so much, and I'm sure our audience is also picking up on a lot of things that you're saying. So follow-up question to your 4 recessions that you've experienced. What's been the mindset, because the news is always going to be negative, bubble, high rates, inflation. Is this always the case in every recession, that this is what's in the news and this is what's being projected? So the question that I have for you is, during that time when the negativity is going on and the medias are having a run for it because this is what people want to hear and what they want to listen to, what happens after when the markets take corrective measures and get better? What does everyone say then? Oh, darn it, I should have bought during that time.
That's exactly what they say.
And it's happened 4 times now.
It's exactly what they say. And here, even I say, why didn't I buy 2? Why didn't I buy 3?
Yeah.
But that is common. And that's exactly what everybody says.
And why is it? Why do you think people do that? Is it fear? Is it unsurety? Is it the unknown? What is a combination of those things?
People become affected by media. And I will say this, even though you think media has been all over it in the last, 2 years since the rates have been going the other way, here's the thing. Media has been negative the entire 22 years that real estate has been on an upward spin. So they've always said, it's overpriced, it's overpriced, it's overpriced, it's overpriced. I mean, everybody has heard that for years and years and years. It's not overpriced. We are the 4th largest city in North America. Mexico City is number 1. New York is number 2. LA is number 3. Chicago used to be 5, but Toronto is now 4, and Chicago, is 5. When you have a city like that, we don't even compare to New York or LA. The prices are so far beyond.
Yeah.
So everybody can say what they want, and I think news just what's the word I'm looking for? Makes it bigger than reality. Essentially.
So how would you tackle the affordability question of, okay, real estate's booming, real estate's doing great, but the incomes are not catching up, and the wages are not catching up, and the prices continue to go up because that's what real estate market is doing, and it's great for the people that are buying. But then for someone that is unable to afford a $1 million studio or $1 million a condo, or even some of these homes that are they're 2 million or 1.5 million in some central areas, how do you go about that? Because the second the interest rates go up, I think really that's what's happened now during our time. And, we're shooting this in May 2024. By the time the episode gets released, and anyone that's watching and listening, maybe times may be different. We're in a better interest rate market or anything of that sort. When you have like 5% or 6%, I find that even some of the people I'm talking to, they're having affordability issues of maintaining that. So what happens? I mean, do you just sort of, and look, if I was in that position, it's like, there's nothing you can do about it. You figure out a way to kind of stop the bleeding. And it's, the way I call it is I call it cuts, and you're just bandaging the cuts, and then the bandages get soggy and they come off and the cuts get exposed again, and then you got to put another bandage on. So all you're doing is you're just trying to stop the bleeding. That's all it is. What are your thoughts as an experienced investor, experienced individual? What happens? What should the mindset be then?
Well, I'm living it.
Yeah.
So I have properties where the mortgages have changed, and they've changed unbelievably, where they're massively negative.
Yeah.
So what do? Well, I've built up some here. You have a couple choices, right? One is you're just going to let them run negative for a little while, and I have renewed those mortgages on a yearly basis because I know the rates are going to come down, and so we'll take a hit. Here, I look at it like this. It's a business. It's a business. I don't take it personally. And so I'll carry some losses through some of the properties over a year or 2 years, but I'm really not terribly worried because I know where the real estate is going to go. I would like to answer a question, though, that you asked as part of this about affordability. If you want to live in the city of Toronto, I don't think that you really, to believe that there's affordable housing, there's not. There's not going to be. Yes, there could be some apartments made available through the government or that type of stuff. But tell me something. Is there affordable living in Manhattan? Is there affordable living in Hong Kong? In any of the major cities within the world we live, there just is not affordable housing in those major cities. Those are major cities. People want to live there, so the demand is there, and they pay the money to live in those cities. If you want affordable housing, reality is you go outside of the city and work from there. I don't think that there will ever be truly affordable housing on an even basis like that. And the reason is there are people that have a different attitude in working, have a different attitude in where they want to go in life, and can propel themselves to accomplish certain things that other people can't. And I think there'll always be that division.
I like that. I really like that. And you gave a very interesting perspective on it. Hersh, our show's called More Than a Sale, and it's not just about the successes. It's also about the failures, the setbacks, the heartbreaks, the struggles to get you to where you are today. And my question to you is in this incredible journey of yours of 34 years, and you've seen the highs, you've seen the lows. What's been the lowest low? What's been a moment in your life that has been a major setback, or a moment where you thought, holy crap, this is it for me? And can you share with us, and can you share with me what that moment looked like for you?
Yeah. It's because did it happen? It's happened more than once, obviously, in 34 years. It happens. It's just part of life and part of business. But because we talked about one bluer, I'm going to give you the other side of a phenomenal success story. So think of this. We sell 43 units, 45, whatever the end number was at the time. The commission was $1.5 million. That's a lot of money. And then, all of a sudden, the fall of 2007, within a couple months after the sale, everything in the United States turns backwards. Lehman Brothers, who were the financing arm of One Bluer, goes into bankruptcy, and there is the last recession that happened between 2007 and 2008, and the company, One Bluer East, went bankrupt. All the commission, all the sales, gone. Gone. All that work, gone. And so what did you do? What do you do? In the end of the day, I made great friends with the company that happened to buy the One Bluer East from the receivers. And that happened to be Great Gulf, and I happen to know one of the owners very well. And so, of course, he knew what I had done. And I said, you're going to give me back those 50 suites so that I can resell them. And he said, I won't give you the 50. He says, and we're not going out at the same price. So they raised the price and changed some things around. We were very lucky, and I was able to sell a fair amount. But if you want to see something from the pinnacle of unbelievableness go to zero, that was probably the biggest one. Just like that. It was unbelievable.
So how were you feeling? What was your mindset? What was
How
your,
do you feel?
you're like $1.5 million just whoosh, vanished.
Gone.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Just like that. How do you feel? You feel terrible. How do you feel? It's like, are you kidding? You feel rotten. But there's nothing you can do. That's one of those things that are out of your hand. The one here, ask me this question, Ron. What's my favorite word? What's my favorite saying?
What's your favorite saying?
Next. You ask anybody that knows me, and you just say, what's Hersh's word? Next. Next. Don't hang on to what you can't deal with, and just next. Keep moving. Move, 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 move. Stay positive and go. Go, go, go. Because if you stay positive and go, you will go to where you want to go. If you sit there and sulk about it, look, even my shoulders when I say the word. It's like, don't do that. That won't get you anywhere. You just say, next, and go. Every day is a new opportunity, right? And that's how I look at it. There's tons of opportunities out there. You just have to take them. Don't think about why you shouldn't. Just do it. Do it, do it, do it.
I love that. I really do. Let me ask you another question,
Sure.
Hersh. Who's been a major influence in your life? And you talk about books, you talk about learning, you talk about the education programs. Can you share with our audience of some individuals that have had a profound impact in your life, past, present, influences, books, things that have gotten you to think the way you think and have helped you during various times? It's a very open-ended question, I know.
Yeah, but I'm going to preface it like this.
Yeah.
Because most people that get out of school, and they've gone to high school or a little bit of university, absolutely, once they're out those doors, never get involved in any kind of education again. They never pick up a book, right? And I don't mean a thriller or a novel, right? I mean a book about self-help, a book about business, a book about sales techniques, a book about marketing. They just don't. They just don't. So I will tell you and anybody that is listening to this, if you start educating yourself, you have an incredible advantage over pretty much 99% of everybody else that's in the business. And that's one thing that I absolutely did. I cannot tell you, here, if I could tell you it's hundreds of books, it's not hundreds of books. But is it probably dozens of books that I've read? Absolutely. And when you say which one, each one, I'm like this. If I can take away one thing out of anything that I learn, or go to, that is phenomenal for me. So, Steve Jobs' book, the first book after he passed away, was an incredible book about his just sheer determination of, you just make stuff happen, right? Which was fascinating. I think back and they're going through my mind of all the little pieces that I learned about. Here, I've read 2 of Donald Trump's books when they had come out, and I know not everybody is a fan of that, but I'm not here to let's not shoot the messenger. It's just the message. But one of the big things that I learned from him, he had in one of the chapters, don't reinvent the wheel. If you want to do something, go speak to someone that's actually done it. Most times they'll tell you exactly how they did it, and just copy it. You'll save yourself hours and so much money through the fail process. And when I learned that was a huge thing for me. And today, that's exactly what I do. I don't want to spend the time nor money, to go through all the little fails when I can find someone that can help me get to it. So do that. That is huge. It's interesting when you've learned just dozens of techniques and all kinds of things that, as you ask me the question, they just, they all pop by, but I'll relay one to you that has helped a lot, and I think it could help a lot with. So here's what generally happens to salespeople. They can go to a seminar, or you can listen to something like this and you're very motivated and and it's great. And of course you either leave that seminar or turn this podcast off. And of course you almost slip back to the regular life of what you were doing, and you're not doing any of the things you've heard. And why does that happen? Why is that so common? I've done, I've spoke in front of thousands and thousands of agents over the years and given them all the things that I do and that works. And it's interesting enough, I guess I got shocked along the way to find out that people actually leave my seminars and they don't do exactly what I've shown them. And I thought that was strange. But here's what really happens. Everybody has different personalities within them. That is just a fact. And I have been taught it this way, which was very helpful. Think of a school bus. And you know how you have all the seats in the back and all the kids in the back? Well, think of those seats are filled with all your different personalities. And the person that's driving the bus is the personality that you are at the moment. And you are happy and you are terrific and you're watching this podcast. That's the personality that's here right now. And of course, you turn off the podcast and you go wherever you need to go. And all of a sudden, you're not thinking of buying real estate anymore. You're not thinking of phoning some of the people that you know that might want to buy it or any of that stuff. And why? Why? Because that same person isn't driving the bus. One of your other personalities is gotten in there and they're going, don't do it. Don't do it.
What's one piece of advice that you've received that had a profound impact in your life?
Next.
Okay, love that. Easy as it goes. I've had the pleasure of knowing your children, Jody and Kelly, and great individuals. How have you, in your own words, been a father? What's it like being a father? What's your experience like, or what was it like raising both of them, or how would you say you were with them?
Raising them is one thing. I was a fun. I was a fun dad. Jody was involved in hockey. I was very, very, very involved in hockey and all of that kind of stuff. I loved that stuff. Yeah. Kelly was involved in dance. Raising them is one thing. Working with them is another.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
They're great. Kelly has been in it much longer than Jody. Jody was never in the real estate industry, but Kelly got involved in it about 15 years ago, and she is truly a phenomenal agent. And I don't say that as her dad, but her accomplishments, and she stands out as a premier agent, and I can hand her anything, and I don't have to think about it because she grew up in this world, and she watched, me, and her mother was also in it. So for Kelly, she was able to take on what we do, and she's fantastic. Jody, of course, specialized in the entertainment and production world. Yeah. And so it was only in the last few years that Jody has been involved. So I think that, you want to give them the leeway to do what they wish and let them have their creative lines. But, as someone that's done stuff for 34 years, you also know when that's not going to really work well.
Yeah.
And, heads do butt at that point. And there definitely are some arguments. And I would tell you this, that if we really had cameras following us as a family in real estate, we'd have the #1 show on TV.
I said that to you as well. I shared the same thing with you as well. You guys, you don't even need to share space with anyone else. It just needs to be your own show, And
the fireworks and some of the reality stuff that happens. There's reality TV at its best. That's for sure.
You guys are in the most best way possible, and I love you guys. You guys are walking movie characters, each one of you. Kelly's her own personality, Jody's his own personality, you are as well. But you're all heart. and heart, purity, intention, and anyone that knows you, that has had an experience with you guys, that have the pleasure of working with you, they'll be able to figure that out in a second. And it's all heart and purity, and it's just good people. If there's a piece of advice that you can, for Jody that's watching or Kelly that's listening, if you can tell them one thing each or an advice that you can give them, what would you give? Let's start with Jody and then we'll go to Kelly.
Well, there's nothing as good as experience. And it doesn't matter what you think you know. If you haven't seen it and you're guessing, it's the story of the chapter I read in Donald's book, right? If you're guessing, it's going to cost you money. So one thing is, sometimes it's good to take the advice of someone that's been there, and just because they're older than you, it doesn't mean they don't know how it actually works. So there's one little tidbit of real advice. But I'm going to say this to everybody out there, whether it's Jody, whether it's Kelly, and I've gotten them to do this already, but buy real estate. But if you want independence somewhere in your life, start to buy real estate. It pays itself off. Your tenants pay off your own mortgage. There is nothing as easy and passive as it. Think of this. All you physically had to do it was pick up a pen and write your name on some checks, sign some paper. You didn't have to build a brick wall. You didn't have to pick up a hammer and put up a wood frame. You just picked up a pen and transferred some money from your savings account to the lawyer's trust account and let them hold it for a few years. There is nothing easier than that to make money. So when you understand the reality of how easy a process it is, it's everybody. Don't sit around and do the same thing that you did yesterday and the day before. If you're tuning into this, I congratulate you, because you're tuning in because you're looking for something and some help and maybe something to improve your life. Buy some real estate today, because it is never going to be cheaper in your lifetime.
I love that. I'd like to finish off this episode with one last and final question. Who is Hersh Litvack?
You know, for the most part, I'm just a happy guy that really enjoys the business. I like life, and I love seeing people succeed. That is a really cool thing for me, because at my point in life, when I see somebody do some of the things that we've helped them with, and like I've gotten letters from people whose lives we've just changed immensely, and to think of, I'll leave you with one. I got this magnificent letter from an agent that said, "Thank you, Hersh, and Susan, my partner. We could have never had the wedding that we had without the help that you gave us on teaching us what to do. We will always be, you will always be special in our hearts." You can't buy that, Ron. So along your way in life, you want to achieve wealth and independence, and that's a fantastic thing to do, because it does allow you certain freedoms. But in the end of the day, the understanding that you've changed somebody else's life, there is where the wonderment is of your career.
And not a lot of people know about your philanthropic endeavors as well. You're a very giving person too. And I know you've shared with me a couple of things, and even when I come into your office, I see all these receipts. You donate a lot, you give back a lot. And I want to say this was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me today, because I can sit and I can listen, and there's so much to learn from you at every step along the way, and every interaction with you is a blessing for me, because I always pick up one or two things that I get a chance to implement. And a lot of things you said today, I'm definitely going to implement a lot of those things. And you know, your creativeness, your wittiness, your smartness, and I'm grateful to know you. So thank you for joining me on More Than a Sale.
You are very welcome. It has been my pleasure. And everybody, I wish you the best of luck out there. You just remember, next.
Having said that, More Than a Sale, incredible episode. Next.